this year, I recorded a video that was entitled, or that still is entitled, Is NLP Scientific? The British Psychological Society Don't Think So. I'll put a link in the comments below if you want to go and have a look at it. And it was referring to an article that I shared and discussed on my blog a few years ago that featured on the Research Digest blog of the British Psychological Society, the BPS. And the article that they had published was entitled 10 of the most widely believed myths in psychology. And it offered plenty of evidence base that refuted some commonly held beliefs in the field of psychology. And I got down to, when I was reading the article, I got down to myth number 9 of that article, where it was written, number 9, neuro-linguistic programming is scientific. It's true that a minority of psychologists are trained in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP is what it said, and advocate its use, but it's a serious error to think that NLP is grounded in scientific findings in either psychology or neuroscience. In fact, the system, which is usually marketed as a way of achieving greater personal success, was developed by two self-help gurus in the 1970s who simply made up their own psychological principles after watching psychotherapists working with their clients. NLP is full of false claims that sound scientific-ish, such as that we each have a preferred representational system for thinking about the world, and that the best way to influence someone is to mirror their preferred system. A forensic trawl through all the claims made in NLP programs found that the overwhelming majority are piffle. In many contexts, this may be harmless, but in 2013, a charity was called to book for offering NLP-based therapy to traumatized war veterans. So this is what the BPS wrote, that quote, and I discussed this and the reactions I've had from well-known NLP proponents over the years, and I shared my thoughts, my responses and some rebuttals in that video. And about a month after I published it and shared it online, I had someone comment on my college blog, and it's public and it's still there, and it's from Steve, and it said the following: "Yet another example of an establishment using a straw man argument to attempt to defeat something they view as a threat or outside their scope to control or monetize. As you say, I'm not aware of any claims by B&G, I'm guessing that's Bandler and Grinder, as to the science or evidence of NLP, yet it is now being stood up as such. This logically-fallacious approach opens up the call for RCTs, randomized controlled trials, that effectively set out to prove or disprove the efficacy of NLP. And as we all know, scientific approach has been used throughout history to prove, disprove, all manner of things, from how a bumblebee flies to the magic bullet that killed JFK. If it works, use it. If it don't, forget it. I consider NLP to be more of an art, a relationship between artist and audience. Maybe we should all go back, tell all the thousands of people that NLP has helped down the years that they are in fact still broken, and the happy, successful lives they received in return for their investment in NLP therapies was all a waste of money. RCTs for therapy only prove, disprove that on that particular day, with that particular subject and practitioner, using that specific approach or methodology, this particular result was observed and recorded. That's not to say that RCTs and science-based study to prove the efficacy of NLP, hypnosis or whatever are invalid, far from it. In a world that is dominated and controlled by self-appointed autocratic bodies, we have to play by their rules. I'm fascinated by the work done in this field by you and others, Adam. We need you and we need your findings. But as Robert Anton Wilson said, what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. So that's the end of Steve's comment, and it's one that I replied to in depth and thought I'd share my response. As again, I think it contained numerous important points that I think we need to be aware of as a field. So I wrote back, "Hi Steve, thanks for your comment and the time taken to write it. So regarding your first sentence, you say, yet another example of an establishment using a straw man argument to attempt to defeat something they view as a threat or outside their scope to control or monetize. Really? Really? I mean, this comment seems a bit paranoid to me. I might be inclined to whip off the foil hat here and look at what you can know for sure. Do they really consider NLP a threat? Do they really want to control it? I mean, how do you know that? Who is they? As an NLP supporter, you can probably apply some meta model questions to much of this sentence in order to highlight a great deal of problematic rhetoric that you're spouting here. Regarding your next sentence, you say, if it works, use it. If it don't, forget it. You've got to be aware that hundreds of years of medical and psychological history have shown us that lots of what has worked for a great many thousands of people is no longer used. And why do you suppose that is? I mean, crocodile dung was used extensively as a contraceptive with great success. So why do we not continue to use it today? I address this as long as it works type of attitude in another video, which you might like to watch. It's on my channel. I'll put a link to that below too. The as long as it works attitude is not a good one, and it prevents forward progress as far as this field concerned in particular. Regarding the next sentence, you say, I consider NLP to be more of an art, a relationship between artist and audience. Now, firstly, art and science are not mutually exclusive. That's a false dichotomy. And in fact, it takes incredible creativity to think critically and effectively. But more important than that is that this notion of being an artist, it's so self-centered. It's not very client-focused at all. You're making it all about you and less about the client or the patient. You wrote that your client is the audience, that you are performing in front of. Really? Regarding your next sentence, you said, maybe we should go back, tell all the thousands of people that NLP has helped down the years that they are in fact still broken. And the happy, successful lives they received in return for their investment in NLP therapies was all a waste of money. I think that's a bit of a dramatic way to make a point. I don't think anyone's suggesting that no one has been helped as a result of NLP. However, a lot of those claims of success have not been fully and systematically followed up, and may perhaps, quite dangerously, be giving a false impression about its efficacy and thereby influencing choices that people could make about healthier alternatives. Also, without any scientific scrutiny whatsoever, how can we be sure that what is actually getting the results that are being claimed? With NLP being so, it's very testable, why not examine it and pay it some scrutiny? Who knows, it may even develop and benefit as a result. But you see, to date, when it has been tested, the results have been rather mixed, which means that the techniques themselves may not be responsible for the changes that practitioners are experiencing in the therapy rooms out there in the world. Wouldn't it be preferable and valuable to know what mechanisms are actually making the successes occur, especially because they may not be anything to do with NLP per se. They may be to do with some other extra therapeutic factors such as expectation, placebo, the working alliance. In your next sentence, you say, RCTs for therapy only disprove that on that particular day, that particular subject and practitioner using that specific approach or methodology, this particular result was observed and recorded. Only, you're quite right. That's much of what they do, such as the scientific method. But, and I'm no science fascist. I openly teach and advocate the notion that scientifically elicited therapeutic results are not representative of clinical outcomes, which have a variety of other variables influencing and affecting the outcomes. Science is not necessarily about being correct. We yield to superseding evidence when it arrives, but currently the field of NLP is rather bereft of such evidence. It's a pretty weak an argument and therefore a bit irresponsible to use with clients, in my opinion, to suggest, NLP was not designed to be tested, so we don't agree to being tested, and we don't need to be tested anyway because loads of people everywhere are getting results without the need for tests. So regarding this sentence, I'm fascinated by the work done in this field by you and others, Adam. We need you and we need your findings. Well, we agree on that much. And Steve then signs off by saying, but as Robert Anton Wilson said, what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. Quite right, he did say that indeed. However, good scientific inquiry and well-constructed methodologies employed, they know this already, and they remove operator bias as much as possible. A neutral hypothesis is developed prior to the experiment. The applicant's experimental results are often blinded. Objectivity is highly sought after. Prior to publication, the results in the paper, it's subjected to rigorous peer review. It's highly scrutinized. This is something well considered by many in the academic fraternities for decades and decades, and such thinker proving has long been thwarted. With respect, this just highlights a misunderstanding of the scientific method. And I highlight these points because this type of thinking, riddled with paranoia and bias and lacking in real effective critical thinking, it's important for our field to develop and understand and progress. And these are central themes that I speak of often on this channel. But that's it. I'll be back next week with something rather different. Do subscribe to this channel. Do go visit my college website for more information about my classroom-based and online courses. Check out my members area. It's a paradise for hypnosis geeks. I send you my very best wishes. Goodbye for now.